I remember the way his eyes shifted, not with fury, not with sorrow, but confusion, the kind that stings more than either. That night, in the silence of our bedroom, something snapped. A match struck inside both of us, and neither of us would ever smother the flames again. Greg had just finished. As usual, I lay still, eyes on the ceiling, body untouched by joy, not satisfied, not even angry, just vacant, like dust slowly settling in a forgotten room. I waited for the guilt. Instead, I looked him dead in the eye and said it. "You're not enough." He blinked. Once. Twice. Then, without a word, slipped on his boxers and sat at the edge of the bed, his back to me, no fight, no tears, only this. Then I'll find someone who is. To those watching, new, returning, curious, or captivated, I see you. Thank you for being here, for showing up, for sharing your heat. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe. Every comment, every like, it feeds this fire. And trust me, this story, it's just starting to burn. We'd been married for 12 years. 12 long, dry, functional years. Greg was reliable, predictable. He paid the bills early, scheduled Sunday sex, and kissed my forehead like a father tucking in a child. I tried to revive us: lingerie, late-night text, endless videos on how to seduce your husband after 10 years. Nothing pierced the numbness. I was starving in a house full of food I no longer had the appetite to touch. So I said it, after another silent, robotic 3-minute routine. He rolled off me like someone punching a time card, turned on ESPN, and I whispered just loud enough to wound. "Greg, you don't do it for me anymore." At first, he assumed I meant emotionally. More dates, more attention, more affection. But I was clear. I wanted something deeper, something primal, wild, dominant, not just variety, violence, not just spice, power. He didn't respond, just walked to the bathroom and closed the door. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe he'd file. Maybe he'd leave. But Greg had other plans. 2 nights later, I came home and found them. Marcus, Tyrone, tall, built, still. They sat on our couch like they owned the air in the room. Marcus had tribal ink coiled around his forearms. His gaze was slow, piercing. Tyrone wore a gold chain and a beard that framed his jaw like a blade. Greg stood next to them. "You wanted more," he said. "They'll give it to you." My knees buckled. Not from fear, but from something wicked. A thrill I hadn't felt in years. That night, Greg watched from the corner, arms folded, silent. No instructions. Just watching. Marcus touched me first. His hands swallowed mine. He lifted me effortlessly, like I was weightless, and kissed me like he wanted air, but took me instead. Tyrone joined, fingertips dragging, slow, calculated hunger. The 3 of us moved like fire, relentless, consuming, alive. I screamed. I begged. Sounds Greg had never heard from me. Sounds he couldn't earn. And still, he watched, expression flat, eyes dark and locked on every pulse, every tremor, every climax that didn't belong to him. Afterwards, I lay collapsed on the carpet, drenched, shaking. Marcus handed me water. Tyrone kissed my inner thigh and whispered, "We're just getting started." Greg handed me a towel, kissed my forehead, and walked upstairs, like it was nothing. But I couldn't sleep. My skin was still singing, felt owned, desired, reborn, and the shame never came. Instead, I texted Marcus, then Tyrone. I wanted more, again and again. Greg kept inviting them, sometimes one, sometimes both. At first I thought he was trying to fix us, but I was wrong. He wasn't, saving the marriage. He was watching it burn, and I was enjoying the fire. I changed. Heels in the kitchen, silk robes with nothing underneath. I moved like a woman who had finally remembered her own body. Then one night, Greg asked me, "Do you still want more?" I didn't blink. Yes. He looked at me for a long time, then said the coldest thing I've ever heard. "Maybe I should stop being your husband and start being your manager." The room froze. I laughed. He didn't. And just like that, everything shifted. It didn't start in the bedroom. It started long before that, in the silence between us and the way Greg stopped being my partner and started treating me like a product. But that's a story for another chapter. It began with a text at midnight. "Marcus, you free tomorrow?" "Tyrone, we miss that mouth of yours." Somewhere along the way, I'd gone from Greg's wife to something else entirely. A woman passed between two powerful men, a secret, scheduled, shared, and the strangest part, I liked it. No, I craved it. Greg had stopped touching me. No hugs, no kisses on the forehead, no "I love you" before work. He became cold, clinical, like a man managing a brand he no longer cared for. He started scheduling my nights. "They'll be here at 7. Be ready. They want something new. Wear red. They're bringing a third." Yes, a third. Greg didn't even flinch. He said it like he was reading off a grocery list. That night I met Andre. Taller, darker, quieter. His touch felt like sin wrapped in silk. By the end, I was sore, soaked, speechless. I started losing track of myself. Greg was taking money now. Strangers were paying. Word had spread. My husband, my own husband, was selling me. He looked me in the eye and said, "You wanted more. Now, they're lining up for you." I couldn't look in the mirror anymore, not out of shame, but because I didn't recognize the woman staring back. She was powerful, wanted, but also something darker. One evening, Greg poured us wine, dark red, heavy, bitter. He said, "You're more alive now than you've ever been. Admit it." And I did, because it was true. But a knot had begun to form in my stomach. So I asked, "Why are you doing this?" He smirked. "Because watching you transform turned me on. But now I see something better. Power.control. If I can control you, I can control anyone." The glass slipped, shattered across the kitchen tile. Red wine splashing my bare feet like blood. That was the night I realized I hadn't just betrayed my husband. I had awakened a monster. It got worse. Greg brought in lights, cameras, professional setups. He called it art. I called it what it was, porn. I screamed, begged, told him to stop. He only smiled. "You can't stop now. You started this. You wanted more." And the worst part? A part of me still wanted it. That duality, pleasure and horror, tore me apart. Some days I curled in the shower crying like a child. Other days, I rode Marcus like my life depended on it. I stopped seeing friends, ignored my mother's calls, skipped my niece's birthday. I lived for the sessions, for the knocks, the messages, the raw, unfiltered pleasure. But everything changed the day I opened the guest room closet. Inside, folders, neatly labeled, color-coded, organized. March, Marcus April, Tyrone May, Andre plus Malik June. VIP submissions, each had DVDs. USBs. Contracts, my name on everyone. I wasn't a wife. I was inventory. I confronted Greg, screamed, slapped him. He didn't blink. "I built something out of your hunger," he said. "You said I wasn't enough, so I made you something too big for just me. Now everyone wants you." I shook. Not with fear, with clarity. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was his product. I packed a bag that night. My hands trembled as I zipped it, but my phone was gone, my keys, my purse. Greg stood in the hallway, arms crossed. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "You belong here now." I ran, locked myself in the guest room, sat on the bed and sobbed. But deep down I knew. This wasn't the end. It was just beginning. Weeks passed. No more knocks. No more men. Just silence. Bitter, thick silence that infected the walls of our home. Greg became obsessed. He was no longer my husband. He was my director. My shadow. The man who watched me on loop. Cameras in the bedroom, the bathroom, microphones in the kitchen. For protection, he said. But I knew the truth. He wanted control, ownership. New men came. Older, younger, rougher. One night, I counted 5. I stopped crying. My body went numb. My soul slipped out the back door. I wasn't a woman. I was a project. An exhibit. An experience. But something had started to grow. Quiet at first. Then burning. Rage. Not just at Greg. At myself. I had asked for more. And I got it. But the price was too high. Then came Friday. Gray skies. Greg said he was going to the gym. I stood in the living room, just a robe and silence. My reflection on the TV screen looked like someone else. Eyes red, lips cracked. Fading. Then I saw it. His laptop. Left open on the kitchen counter. He never left it behind. I opened it. A folder. Pleasures. Inside, hundreds of videos. Different nights, different men, different angles. Worse, they were posted, uploaded, sold, subscribed to. Greg hadn't just filmed me. He'd turned me into content. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was property. That was the last straw. I ran, not just from the house, from myself, to Carla, a neighbor I barely knew, the one who brought us a casserole once. I told her everything. The men, the recordings, the betrayal. She held me, then called the police. Greg was arrested 2 hours later at the gym, just like I guessed. They found everything, the footage, the drives, the transfers. He'd made over $300,000 off my humiliation. I was escorted back to pack my things. I passed the bedroom, where I was once worshipped, then discarded. The kitchen, where moans echoed louder than music. I stopped at the mirror in the hallway, the one I used to check my lipstick in before every guest. I looked myself in the eye. I wasn't ashamed. I was furious. But underneath the rage was freedom. Greg now faces charges: felony, exploitation, unlawful surveillance, abuse, and more. His lawyer reached out. I refused. He doesn't deserve my voice. As for me, I started therapy. Real therapy. I gave up the house. Those walls knew too much. I moved to a small studio by the lake. No one knows me there. I cut my hair. Stopped wearing lace. Started writing again. Not poems. Not fiction. Confessions. Raw. Unfiltered. Bloody truths. I posted them anonymously. And then the messages came. Women. All over the country. Telling their stories. I wasn't alone. And that saved me. So if you're watching, reading, living through your own secret story, hear this. Asking for more doesn't make you wicked, but not knowing when to stop, that can destroy you. I was greedy, foolish. I wanted fire, and I got it, but I burned down everything. Now I'm rebuilding, brick by painful brick. This time I'm choosing peace, not power, not pleasure, just peace.